In Hong Kong, violent protests spread to the streets, plus satellite images show hundreds of Chinese military vehicles lined up along the Hong Kong border. This as U.S. officials warn that China could be preparing for a Tiananmen Square-style crackdown in response to the protests. Joining me now from the Heritage Foundation is Dean Cheng. Dean, thank you for joining us. Do you think that's what's going to happen here?
Well, it's very hard to say. Certainly the Chinese authorities want to be prepared to move in if they feel they have to. But I suspect at this point they're allowing a lot of this imagery and reporting to go on in order to pressure the Hong Kong protesters to go home before the Chinese have to intervene.
Yeah. Do you think that the Chinese, at any point, the mainland government gives any concessions and sort of takes the threat away from Hong Kong, the way that they've kind of moved in ominously and proposed this idea of extraditing people from Hong Kong to mainland China? That was meant to send a signal, and a signal it did send. Is there any possibility that China takes the reverse signal back from Hong Kong that that's not okay?
Well, the extradition issue actually was an internal Hong Kong bill. The protesters were unhappy about that. The bill got tabled. It hasn't been completely killed. If the Hong Kong authorities were to completely kill the bill, formally withdraw it and say we're not even going to go there, it's possible that the protesters would go home and you might see a de-escalation. Let's also keep in mind this is the 30th anniversary of Tiananmen. The Chinese authorities understand that if they do go in, especially with this as the precedent, the optics are going to be awful, and the idea of negotiating a trade agreement may just basically come to a halt, because I doubt the U.S. government is going to want to sign an agreement with the Chinese government that, is rolling tanks down Queens Road.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the president is aware of that, and you've seen that reflected in his statements. But when you say that it's an internal bill that came from inside Hong Kong, that's one of the reasons why the people in Hong Kong are rejecting their local leaders, because they feel like they've been placed there by mainland China, and that was, it may technically be an internal bill from inside Hong Kong, but they definitely feel like it was put in motion by the mainland.
Absolutely. The issue here for the people of Hong Kong is they are protesting to basically say, look, we're not going to reunify before 2047, and we want to make very clear that that's the situation. You are not going to accelerate this. That's the message they're trying to send to Beijing.
Dean Cheng, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, the city